Welcome to this month's edition of Third Eye View, brought to you by ThirdEye. I'm Jing, Business Development Manager, and joining me today is Colin Dixon, our ACAMS Certified Third Eye Solutions Specialist. In last month's episode following the FIU ACAMS conference, we talked about the harm caused by financial crime, and also that a lot of people involved in the day-to-day process of financial crime team don't appreciate the extent of problems and therefore are not aware of the importance of their work.
Yeah, in discussions at the conference, it surprised me that the level and types of offending were eye-opening to a number of people. That changed their view of the job they do to something with real social benefits rather than just a compliance exercise. And it gave them a real good feeling that this is a job worth doing. So we thought we should talk about some specific cases in this episode to try and raise the awareness. I went looking for some recent examples to discuss, and unfortunately it wasn't hard to find them. All of the cases that we'll discuss were reported in November. Really, this is just a small snapshot of the problem, but I hope it encourages people to think more about the harm that financial crimes cause and what they can do to help prevent it.
Well, we got a broad range of cases to discuss. They are not all for conviction, so we've decided to not name any names, but talk about the case in general. So let's start with drug trade, which I'm sure everyone is aware is a big problem.
It wasn't hard to find stories related to the drug trade. We know that drugs cause direct harm to the drug taker, indirect harm to their friends and family, and they're the core source of funds for criminal gangs. We've seen meth and cocaine with a street value of $220 million intercepted at Auckland Airport, with complicit baggage handlers ensuring the safe passage of the drugs. We've also seen two young ladies accused of importing meth with a street value of $33 million in their luggage at Melbourne Airport. And we've also seen 4 drug labs broken up with cash and weapons seized and people arrested in simultaneous police raids. Meth's a particular problem, with the use increasing significantly this year. There are large amounts of money involved which need to be laundered. That's where you come in, to help detect these activities and help to reduce the harm caused by drugs.
Also, in November, we had the Fraud Awareness Week. So there were regular stories about fraud in all news outlets. Where do we start with so many stories?
Well, I think it's important not to get too overwhelmed by the scale of the offending. We each need to do our little bit to help the problem. As with any offending, the small scale that you detect in your business might be the key to unlocking larger and organised activity.
Very true, Colin. So every little adds up to a lot. Well, let's have a look on some fraud stories, please.
Yeah, in one case, someone paid $250,000 to a company claiming to offer cryptocurrency trading services. Unbeknown to him, the money he transferred was sent to the Middle East. And as we know, once money leaves these shores, it's much harder to recover it. A common link in many of the stories we heard during that week was a person losing all their savings with little hope of seeing them again. Each of these people is a customer in your bank or financial institution, and you should be doing your best to protect them. There are measures being put in place to help, and in some cases the customers do get reimbursed. But it's a major problem that potentially affects everyone, and we need to get better at preventing fraud. We also saw 1,600 people arrested in a crackdown on a scam hub near the Thai border in Myanmar. This is relevant to Australia and New Zealand because lots of the scams originate in these scam centres overseas. These scam centres often use people trafficked from abroad and forced to work in the scam centre.
Well, that brings us round to modern slavery. As well as being a crime itself, it's often connected with other forms of crime such as the scam centres.
Yeah, that's right. We've seen a trial of a man who brought people into the country, treated them as if they were his property, raped them and paid them next to nothing for working long hours. People in this situation feel they've got nowhere to turn for help. They're usually threatened that if they speak up, they'll be harmed, that their family back home will be harmed, or they'll be turned into the authorities as illegal immigrants. In many cases, they've paid someone to get them into the country and provide them with a job, and now they're in debt to that person with little hope of paying it off.
Well, this is on a much smaller financial scale to the drug trade, but for each person living in these circumstances, the impact is horrendous.
That's right. Yeah, we need to be more aware of the harm that any criminal activity can cause. We think in terms of risk being likelihood and impact. Whilst the impact may be low in financial terms, the impact is very high if we view the case from the person harmed.
Thanks, Colin. Well, finally, let's move on to environmental crime.
Well, this is something that can range from small scale individuals to organised crime. In the small scale case, we've seen fishermen taking significantly more than their allowed quota. As with the modern slavery case we've just discussed, the amounts involved are relatively small. The direct impact here is on the fishery, but also indirectly on people. Quotas are in place for a reason. Overfishing puts the long-term sustainability of the fishery in jeopardy, affecting legal commercial fishing operations, and prevents individual fishermen from feeding their family.
That's absolutely correct. Well, we could go on with many more recent cases, but we have just picked these as samples of the crimes that have a financial element that you are in a position to detect. Well, now, Colin, have you got any next steps for us, please?
These are the kinds of story that we're trying to stop. By identifying the financial transactions used to perform these types of crime or laundered after the crime, you're helping to stop the flow of funds to these criminals and thereby reduce their capability to commit the next crime. As for next steps, well, you should be thinking about how these cases affect your business and what you can do to detect them. The world of fraud and money laundering are constantly evolving, so you need to be aware of these changes and how they affect your program. Some of the cases we've talked about, such as modern slavery and environmental crime, don't tend to be so top of mind as the more major crimes of drugs and fraud. And they often have a low amounts involved. But you should still be thinking how to approach them. Finally, I'd just like to say that you're doing an important job keeping your customers and your country safe from harm. So keep up the good work.
Well, thank you, Colin. That's it for this month's edition of Third Eye View, brought to you by ThirdEye. You'll find links to everything we've discussed today on our website, along with the blog post that accompanies this episode. As always, we'll love to hear from you. Whether you have questions, thoughts, or feedback, don't hesitate to get in touch. We'll be back next year with more updates and insights from the world of financial crime. I hope everybody have a lovely festive season. See you then.